Okay, so I'm going to be discussing dress code and appearance at Bucks County Technical High School and the regulations that support the dress code. Dress is generally viewed; it can be viewed as a form of self-expression. Could be a form of free speech. So students may be allowed to dress as they see fit, or wear their hair a certain way or certain clothes like that, and it could be protected under the First Amendment right. Okay, but we are allowed to set regulations that are on a defensible basis. They can just not be based on fashion and or taste. It has to be some sort of defensible and reasonable reason to regulate the dress. So what does defensible really mean? It's all about the reasonableness. You can set restrictions if it's proven to disrupt the education process in any way, and I'm going to get in a little more detail on the specifics of that. Regulations cannot be vague or ambiguous. You can't just say, do not wear any inappropriate clothing. You need to outline specifically what is inappropriate. What is deemed as a disruption to the educational environment. One of those violations can be health and safety. And being at a technical high school, this is absolutely very important, considering students encounter very dangerous, potentially dangerous materials and equipment on a daily basis. So the technical program, each individual program has its right to deem a separate dress code on the basis of the health and safety of all students. So some examples of that would be, for example, culinary arts. They can require students to be groomed and cleaned and their hair pulled back under the guise that it's under accordance of the food safety regulations. The culinary arts program does run a restaurant where public and other people come and eat the food, so it needs to follow the same regulations that would follow in a restaurant. So cleanliness, being well groomed, can be regulated in the culinary arts program. Another example is our graphic printing shop or automotive program. They can require students to either put up long hair or cut long hair, remove all loose jewelry, because they can easily get caught in different equipment and material that could potentially be hazardous and dangerous for the student. So regulating that is absolutely acceptable under that guideline. The idea of students wearing controversial slogans, courts have actually been inconsistent with this. The general rule of thumb is that if it violates the standards of common decency, it can be regulated. And if you can defend and reasonably say that the controversial slogan is disrupting the education process for all, then it can also be regulated. In addition, you can regulate the clothing that does not meet the standard of the community. So any kind of undue attention to one's body, any kind of inappropriate slogans, if it is not felt that it meets the standards of the school community, it can be regulated, reasonably regulated. Here is the BCTHS policy for academic classes. No see-through shirts or clothing, no shirts with narrow straps. So as you can see, this does follow all the guidelines. It follows the safety, it follows the guidelines of not being vague. It's very specific. It all will be very reasonable because it can disrupt the education process. Does not meet the standards of the community, and it's very specific. Even with tattoos and piercings, right there it says that the administration deems disruptive to the educational process. Again, this flip-flops and pajamas and bedroom slippers can be the safety. A lot of equipment around the school that you don't want falling on feet, things like that. Again, outlining what our school community deems as appropriate. Now, the dress code in the technical classes is different. Students need to comply with whatever the dress code is of that specific program. Each program is going to have a different dress code policy. Some may wear safety goggles. Some you may not need to. Some you need to wear jeans. Some you might, be able to wear shorts. Some you need boots. Some you don't. So it really depends on the safety of the technical class. Of course, the elements of the appropriateness from the academic class dress code applies to the technical classes, but the technical classes deem what the dress code should be based on safety and health issues of the students and staff and the program as a whole. So an example is, can this be regulated? And the answer is yes and no. I don't believe that we can regulate this hairstyle in the academic classes, but in certain technical programs, they could deem this as endangering the health and safety of this particular student. For example, if the student was in the automotive program, it could reasonably be claimed that that hairstyle can get caught in the machinery and thereby, physically hurting the student. So that could be regulated under the guise that the safety of the student can be in jeopardy when he's around certain equipment with that hairstyle. So in the academic classes, probably not able to get away with it because it is a form of freedom of expression. It might be hard pressed to describe, that it's disrupting the educational process. But in the technical classes, I think you have more of a case due to the safety and nature of the equipment in the technical classes. So just to sum it up, reasonable regulations, they must, if it endangers the student, it's all about protecting the health and safety of students, then you can regulate it. If it does not meet the standards of the community, you can regulate it. And if it feels reasonably that it results in the disruption of education process and the orderly administration of the school, then it can be regulated.